Wow, Ben, this place is incredible. These ancient stones. Did people back then actually do something like accounting?
They did. Mesopotamia was one of the first places where record-keeping took root. It wasn't exactly accounting as we know it, but it set the stage.
No way. So they had systems to keep track of things even thousands of years ago.
Exactly. They'd use clay tablets to track things like grain distribution. It kept transactions fair and helped manage resources.
So they were the first accountants. But how did they do it without numbers or calculators?
They used marks and symbols to represent quantities, simple but effective. They even developed standards for weights to keep trade balanced.
I guess we really do owe our jobs to those early scribes. They'd be proud of what accounting's become.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think how their clay tablets evolved into today's accounting systems.
Ben, these walls. Ancient history must hold some powerful stories, right? How did they even start managing resources?
Definitely. Mesopotamia is where early accounting began. Imagine this. They used clay tablets, just like this stone, to track goods, like grain and livestock. It was their way of ensuring everyone got their share.
So, it wasn't just writing. It was for resource management.
Exactly. They had to keep track of supplies and debts. Imagine running a city. Communication was key. Knowing who owed what could make or break a community. And they didn't have calculators or ledgers like we do. They trained specialized record keepers called scribes. Being a scribe was a respected skill because you needed a sharp memory and a steady hand to etch each transaction onto a clay tablet.
Amazing. So, accounting was one of the earliest professions?
You could say that. Managing trade, land, and taxes was essential for community survival. Without this record keeping, their whole system would crumble.
And what about here in Egypt? They had these enormous grain stores, right?
That's right. Ancient Egypt revolved around what historians call the grain economy. The Nile's yearly floods made the land perfect for farming, and the government needed strict control over grain storage and distribution.
So, they were basically ancient economists.
In a way, yes. They used a system called double-entry recording, not like today's system, but a dual method for tracking what came in and what went out. It was all recorded in hieroglyphics, an early form of data management.
Wow. So, their system wasn't as different as I thought.
Right? They even taxed grain, which allowed them to store reserves for hard times. This level of management took complex arithmetic, a skill that only the elite scribes and priests possessed.
I've heard that Lydia was different. They had coins, right?
Yes, Lydia introduced the first coins around 600 BCE. It revolutionized trade because now they had a standardized currency. With coins, transactions became faster, easier, and even expanded into foreign trade.
So they paved the way for today's money system.
Absolutely. Coins replaced the barter system and allowed merchants to keep accounts of their income and expenses in a way that was consistent and trusted. Lydia set the stage for modern commerce.
It's amazing how each civilization did something unique. Mesopotamia's clay tablets, Egypt's grain economy, and Lydia's coins, they all contributed to what accounting is today.
And it's that combination that allowed us to develop a system that's both structured and adaptable, just like the ancient ones.
Ben, I didn't realize the Greeks were this organized. They actually used cattle and silver coins as units in trade?
Yes, they did. In ancient Greece, cattle were one of the earliest trade units. But as trade grew, they needed something lighter and easier to carry. That's when silver coins became popular. Each coin represented a specific value, making transactions easier and more reliable.
So, people would buy and sell with cattle first, then silver coins?
Exactly. Cattle were essential in small communities, but as cities grew, silver coins allowed them to scale. Plus, silver coins held value that could be trusted, and they were much easier to transport across city-states for larger trades. And they didn't stop there. The Greeks also kept track of legal transactions. They recorded fines, penalties, and public debts in logbooks like these. So if someone owed a debt or a fine, it was written down, just like a ledger today.
So they recorded legal cases too?
Yes! The Greeks established a system to enforce contracts and settle disputes. For example, if a merchant sold spoiled goods or didn't pay a debt, they could be fined. The fine was recorded, and this established accountability. This was their way of building trust in the marketplace.
And the Romans? I imagine they took things even further with their large empire.
They sure did. The Romans had a massive empire to manage, and for that, they centralized everything, starting with a structured budget under the emperor. Every resource, whether taxes from the provinces, grain, or building materials, was tracked.
Managing an entire empire's finances. It must have been complex.
It was. They budgeted for military expenses, public works, and even entertainment, like gladiator games. And because it was all centrally controlled, the emperor had complete oversight on the empire's economy. This helped them manage resources efficiently and avoid waste. Besides coinage, the Romans organized resources like grain, land, and metals. They had centralized storehouses for grain to prevent shortages and control prices. These resources were all listed in state ledgers, which were reviewed regularly.
And this helped them manage the provinces too?
Yes, it did. Provinces paid taxes in grain, metals, or coins, which were collected and recorded. This centralized approach allowed Rome to fund public projects, roads, aqueducts, temples, and reinforced the power of the state.
Greece and Rome both contributed so much to accounting. Greece gave us units of trade and legal records, while Rome showed the power of centralized budgeting and currency.
Exactly, Karen. Together, their innovations set the foundation for modern economics and accounting systems. They understood that to manage resources, you need both order and accountability.
So, Ben, did accounting really begin to take shape in a place like this?
Surprisingly, yes. During the Middle Ages, monks often acted as accountants, recording the finances for the church and landowners. But things took a real leap forward with Luca Pacioli in Italy around the late 15th century.
Pacioli? I've heard of him before. He's considered the father of modern accounting, right?
Exactly. Luca Pacioli was a brilliant mathematician who wrote extensively about double-entry bookkeeping in his book, Summa di Arithmetica, published in 1494. This wasn't just an e-book, it was a comprehensive guide to math, business, and trade. And his system for double-entry bookkeeping changed everything. Double-entry bookkeeping meant that every transaction had two sides, a debit and a credit. This made it possible to track every part of a transaction accurately, ensuring that accounts always balanced. It was like a revolution in record-keeping.
So, by recording both sides, they could make sure no money went unaccounted for?
Precisely. With double entry, if one side was off, they'd know immediately. And because the system was standardized, it created trust in financial records. Merchants could rely on these books to make sound business decisions, and investors knew they could trust the information.
And in Britain? I heard that their accounting systems were pretty advanced too.
Absolutely. In the 17th century, Great Britain was transitioning into a more organized monetary economy thanks to the expansion of trade and the rise of early banks. With more wealth circulating, they needed structured accounting systems to keep up.
So, they were moving away from barter and starting to rely on money?
Precisely. With a monetary economy, there was a need to track payments, debts, and loans efficiently. This period saw the formalization of accounting as a distinct profession. Bookkeepers weren't just clerks, they were responsible for maintaining precise records that shaped businesses' success.
It's amazing to think how all these ideas spread. From Pacioli in Italy to British banking offices like this, accounting has come a long way.
Absolutely, Carol. Pacioli's double-entry system provided the structure, and Britain's organized economy turned accounting into a respected profession. They laid the foundation for the global financial systems we rely on today.
And it all started with books, ledgers, and a brilliant Italian mathematician. So, Ben, IFRS. It seems like every company today follows these rules. What's so significant about them?
IFRS is huge. Imagine this. Different countries once had their own accounting systems, which made it hard to compare financial information. But IFRS, developed by the International Accounting Standards Board, created a universal language for financial reporting. It's like having one set of rules everyone can understand.
So, companies in different countries are now easier to compare? That must make international business simpler.
Exactly. IFRS allows investors, regulators, and businesses to compare financial statements globally. It's not only about accuracy, it's about trust. When companies follow IFRS, people can trust that financial statements are consistent, whether the company is in Brazil, Canada, or Japan.
And where does CPA Canada come in? I thought they mostly certified accountants.
CPA Canada does a lot more than that. They play a major role in educating accountants and ensuring they uphold these standards, especially in Canada. CPA Canada is one of many professional bodies around the world that provides rigorous training, examinations, and ongoing education for accountants.
Sounds intense. But why is all that necessary?
It's essential. Accountants are trusted to provide accurate financial information, so they need the right skills and knowledge. CPA Canada not only certifies accountants, but also updates them on changes to standards like IFRS. This way, they stay relevant and maintain integrity in the profession.
I see. So, these standards and bodies like CPA Canada make sure accountants don't just learn once but keep improving?
Absolutely. And it's not just in Canada. Similar organizations exist worldwide, like the AICPA in the US and NACA in the UK. They ensure accountants globally are held to the same high standards, and this collective effort strengthens the profession and builds trust with the public.
It's amazing to think that all these bodies worldwide work together. It must take a lot of coordination.
It does. Standards like IFRS evolve as economies change, and these professional bodies collaborate to ensure that accounting stays consistent and relevant globally. That's why we're able to trust financial statements from different countries.
So, thanks to IFRS and organizations like CPA Canada, accounting has truly become a global profession.
Exactly. With standardized practices and professional oversight, accounting continues to evolve, building a foundation of trust and transparency worldwide.